The plasma round
The winds
caught
of fate
Captain
gather.
Alara Thorne
Our
in the left
legions
shoulder,
await the command.
spinning her backward into the barricade she had spent 3 hours building
The
from
winds of
wreckage.
fate gather.
Her
Our
blood,
legions
warm
await
and
the
dark
command.
against the scorched metal, painted the Meridian Bridge's control station like a promise of death. Pain exploded through her nervous system. White hot, blinding, the kind of pain that makes a person want to curl up and wait for the end. Alara Thorne did not curl up. At 38 years old, she had spent nearly half her life fighting the Vithkai Dominion. She had been shot before, stabbed, burned, beaten within an inch of her life in a back alley on Titan when a simple reconnaissance mission went sideways. This was nothing new. Pain was an old friend, one she had learned to ignore through 12 brutal years of interstellar war. She pressed her back against the console, breathing ragged, and checked her rifle's charge indicator. The small screen flickered, damage from the impact. 18%. She had 2 grenades clipped to her belt, a combat knife strapped to her thigh, a sidearm with 3 full magazines, and 9 hours until the evacuation transports cleared the planet's gravity well. 9 hours to hold a choke point against the Vithkai Dominion's advance force. 9 hours to stand between 400 alien warriors and 12,000 civilians who were counting on her, even though they did not know her name. The smoke from the last assault still hung in the air, thick and acrid. Through the haze, she could see the bodies of the first wave. 7 Vithkai warriors lay sprawled across the bridge approach, their bioluminescent armor dark now, the life faded from their crystalline eyes. 7 down, 393 to go. Alara laughed. It came out broken and wet with blood she could taste in the back of her throat. The sound echoed across the bridge, carrying into the darkness where the enemy waited. Her earpiece crackled. The voice that came through was rough with age and concern, each word carrying the weight of 4 decades of military service. Hawkeye, this is Iron. All units have been ordered to withdraw to the secondary defensive line. Acknowledge. Colonel Garrett Bannister, her commanding officer, her mentor, the man who had pulled her out of the psychological wreckage after Avalon 7 and taught her how to fight again. Alara wiped blood from her lips with the back of her hand. Her shoulder screamed in protest at the movement, but she forced herself to stand straighter, to project strength she did not feel. Negative, Iron, she said, her voice steady despite everything. 12,000 civilians still evacuating from the Canyon spaceport. Someone has to hold the bridge. The silence stretched for 3 seconds. She could picture Bannister in the command center, his weathered face tight with the kind of decision no officer ever wanted to make. Send reinforcements and risk more soldiers, or leave one woman to die alone. Hawkeye, that's a suicide mission. The Dominion has 4 companies moving on your position. You'll be overrun in minutes. Alara looked at the barricade around her. 3 hours of work, automated turrets positioned with surgical precision, a hard light barrier generator humming with barely stable power, explosive charges planted at key structural points along the canyon walls, and her, standing at the center of it all with 18% charge in her rifle and a lifetime of tactical experience. Then I guess I better make those minutes count, sir. Another pause, longer this time. When Bannister spoke again, his voice carried something that might have been pride, might have been grief, might have been both. What are your orders, Captain? The question hit her harder than the plasma round. He was asking her to choose, to make the call, to stand or fall on her own decision. The faces came to her then, unbidden. A little girl with blonde hair and blue eyes, maybe 5 years old, clutching a teddy bear to her chest like it could protect her from the monsters that came in the night. 30,000 people who had died on Avalon 7 12 years ago, while she was 26 and thought she understood what war meant. She had understood nothing. Hold all units at the secondary line, Alara said. If I fall, you blow the canyon passes and make them earn every inch. If I hold, the civilians get out clean and you court-martial me for disobeying orders when this is over. She could hear the small smile in Bannister's voice. Copy that, Hawkeye. Then I guess you better not die. I have too much paperwork to do already. The connection clicked to standby mode, the soft hiss of the encrypted channel, a reminder that she was not entirely alone. Bannister would be watching her vitals, monitoring the tactical situation, providing what support he could from 200 miles away. But when the Vithkai came, she would face them alone. Alara checked her rifle again. 18%. Maybe 60 shots if she was careful, maybe less. She began the mental calculations that had kept her alive through a dozen campaigns. Ammunition, fields of fire, choke points, psychological warfare. The bridge was a natural kill box, narrow enough that numbers meant less than positioning. The automated turrets would do the heavy work in the opening stages. The barrier would force them to bunch up, make them easy targets. After that, it came down to will, hers against theirs. One woman against 400 warriors who had been bred for war across millions of years of evolution. She smiled again, tasting blood. Good odds. The voice cut through the smoke like a blade forged in cold stars. Human defender. Alara's hand tightened on her rifle. The voice was translated through some device she could not see, but the underlying tone carried through. Authority, power, the absolute certainty of a predator addressing prey. Your reinforcements will not arrive. Your fleet burns in orbit. Surrender the bridge and I will grant you a warrior's death. Alara moved to the barricade's firing position, sighting down her rifle into the darkness beyond the bridge's far end. I appreciate the offer, she called back, her voice carrying across the canyon. But I've had worse odds than this. Come test me if you think you can. The Vithkai warriors did not advance. That was her first clue that whoever commanded them was not ordinary. Alara had fought the Dominion for 12 years. She knew their doctrine better than she knew her own reflection. Standard Vithkai tactics called for overwhelming force, immediate assault, acceptable losses. They believed in momentum, in crushing resistance before it could solidify. Instead, the alien troops held position at the bridge's far end, their bioluminescent armor pulsing in disciplined unison. Blue-green light rippled through their ranks like a heartbeat, synchronized, controlled. Waiting. Hawkeye thermal shows 20 contacts advancing in formation. Bannister's voice crackled through her earpiece. Textbook assault pattern. They're probing your defenses. I see them, Iron. Activating defense grid on my mark. Alara's fingers moved across the control panel built into her barricade. 6 automated turrets came online, their targeting systems painting the approaching warriors with invisible laser designators. The hard light barrier shimmered to life, a wall of golden energy that crackled and sparked across the bridge's width. 20 Vithkai warriors surged forward. They moved with fluid predatory grace, their bodies designed by millions of years of evolution for exactly this purpose: killing. They did not run so much as flow, covering ground with a speed that no unaugmented human could match. Alara hit the activation sequence and dove behind the console. The turrets opened fire. Plasma bolts screamed through the air, turning the bridge approach into a killing field. The hard light barrier shimmered as the first warriors reached it, their momentum carrying them into the crackling energy wall. 2 went down immediately, caught in the crossfire from multiple turrets. Their armor flared bright, then dark, as the concentrated fire overwhelmed their defenses. A third tried to go over the barrier, launching himself into the air with powerful legs designed for exactly that kind of maneuver. The turret tracking systems adjusted with mechanical precision. He died at the apex of his jump, falling back among his fellows as a smoking corpse. But the others kept coming. They were smart, these Vithkai. They learned fast, adapted faster. The surviving warriors spread out, minimizing the turret's effectiveness. They used their fallen comrades as cover, advancing in short bursts that made targeting difficult. Alara leaned out from behind the console and added her rifle to the defense. Each shot was precise, aimed for the gaps in their armor where the joints allowed movement. She had learned those weak points the hard way, paid for that knowledge in blood and the lives of friends she would never forget. A warrior reached the barrier and began cutting through it with some kind of energy blade. The hard light flickered, weakening. Alara put 3 rounds through the gap between his helmet and chest plate. The warrior fell. The assault lasted 4 minutes. When the smoke cleared, 17 Vithkai bodies littered the bridge approach. The turrets swiveled back to ready positions, their barrels glowing with residual heat. The barrier held, though one section now flickered with unstable light where the energy blade had nearly breached it. 3 warriors had made it back to the Dominion lines. Alara checked her rifle. 14%. Impressive, Bannister's voice held genuine respect. 17 confirmed kills, minimal ammunition expenditure. They'll think twice before trying that again. They'll adapt, Alara said, ejecting her rifle's power cell and slotting in a fresh one from her belt. She had 4 more. After that, she would be down to the pistol. After that, the knife. After that, her bare hands. Next assault will be smarter, more cautious. Then you'll need to be smarter too, Hawkeye. Alara allowed herself a small smile. When have I ever been anything Molly, sir? The answer came not from Bannister, but from the darkness beyond the barrier. You fight with more skill than I anticipated. The voice was different this time, still translated, still carrying that underlying tone of absolute authority. But there was something else now. Curiosity, interest. The kind of attention a scientist might pay to a particularly fascinating specimen. Alara's combat instinct screamed at her to take cover, but she forced herself to remain standing, to project confidence even as her shoulder throbbed and blood soaked through her tactical vest. My warriors underestimated you, the voice continued. They will not make that mistake again. Your warriors are dead because you sent them to their deaths, Alara called back. You could have bombarded this position from orbit, could have collapsed the canyon walls with a single strike from your cruiser. Instead, you sent ground troops against a fortified position defended by someone who's been killing Vithkai for 12 years. She paused, letting the words sink in. So here's my question. Whoever you are, why? The silence stretched. Alara counted her heartbeats, forcing her breathing to steady, her hands to stop shaking. This was the moment. This was where tactics met psychology, where the battle moved from the physical realm into something far more dangerous. Then she walked through the Vithkai ranks. The warriors parted before her like water before a ship's prow. They did not simply step aside, they flowed, their movement carrying a reverence that Alara had never seen from the Vithkai before. It was the way soldiers moved in the presence of a legend, a commander who had earned absolute loyalty through decades of victory. Warlord Cyrus stood 7 feet tall. Her obsidian carapace gleamed in the dying light of the burning city behind her, and across its surface Alara counted the kill marks of 100 campaigns. Each one was etched with precision, a record of worlds conquered, enemies broken, species brought to heel. The crest rising from her skull marked her as noble blood among her kind. It caught the firelight, turning her silhouette into something from a nightmare, or perhaps from a legend. 4 arms hung at her sides, each ending in claws that could tear through hull plating as easily as a human might tear paper. She did not carry weapons. She did not need them. She was a weapon, honed by 6 centuries of war into something perfect and terrible. Hawkeye, thermal signature indicates massive contact. Bannister's voice was tight with concern. 7 feet tall, 4-arm configuration. That's a warlord-class enemy. Retreat to secondary position immediately. Alara did not move. Negative, Iron, we're having a conversation. Syra's multifaceted gaze studied her with an intensity that made Alara's skin crawl. Each facet reflected a different angle, a different perspective, all focused on her with predatory attention that suggested she was being cataloged, analyzed, dissected without a single claw being raised. You find humor in death, human. It was not a question. Syra had heard her laugh after killing 7 Vithkai warriors. Your species confuses me. The warlord took a step forward. The bridge trembled beneath her weight. You lack strength, you lack speed. You have no natural armor, no venom, no claws worthy of the name. Your lifespans are pathetically brief, barely a century, even under optimal conditions. Another step. Closer now. Close enough that Alara could see the individual kill marks on her carapace, could make out the alien script that marked each conquest. Yet you fight. Alara shifted her grip on her rifle. 14%. Maybe 50 shots if she was careful. She could empty the entire magazine into Syra's chest and probably achieve nothing except an angry warlord. Better to save the ammunition for targets she could actually kill. We're stubborn like that, she said. Syra's jaw plates shifted together, producing a sound that Alara had learned to recognize during her years fighting the Dominion. The warlord was smiling. Stubborn. She tasted the word, rolling it through her translation device like something foreign and strange. My tacticians call it stupidity. They say humans cannot recognize when they are beaten, that your species lacks the basic survival instincts that evolution should have provided. Alara pulled herself fully upright, leaving a smear of red on the console behind her. The movement cost her. Fresh waves of agony radiated from her shoulder, but she did not let it show on her face. Could not let it show. The bridge's defense grid was still operational. She had made sure of that before the first shot was fired. 6 automated turrets, a hard light barrier generator, enough explosive charges planted along the canyon walls to turn the whole structure into a crater if things went sideways. Her whole card, her last resort. Maybe we just don't like being told what to do, she said. Sarah's mandibles clicked faster, the smile widening. I am Syra, she announced, and her voice carried the weight of history. Warlord of the Third Talon, conqueror of the Ashfall Nebula, she who broke the spine of the Korvathi Empire. Another step forward, the bridge groaned under her weight. I have crushed 17 species beneath my heel. I have burned worlds that dared resist. I have never lost a battle. She paused, letting the silence stretch. Not once in 600 years. Alara met her alien stare without flinching. 600 years. Longer than human spaceflight. Longer than most nations on Earth had existed. This creature had been waging war when Alara's ancestors were still figuring out gunpowder. There's a first time for everything, she said quietly. You are one human, Sira said, and there was something in her voice now, not anger, something closer to genuine curiosity. Wounded, alone, abandoned by your commanders. I have 400 warriors and armor support en route. She tilted her head, studying Alara like a scientist examining a particularly interesting specimen. Why do you not run? The question hung in the air between them. Alara thought about the evacuation of ships lifting off from the spaceport on the other side of the canyon. She thought about the 12,000 people packed into those vessels. Families, children, the elderly and sick who could not fight. The colonial government of New Pershing had written them off the moment the Dominion fleet appeared in orbit. Standard protocol, they called it. Military assets retreat to defensible positions. Civilians shelter in place. Hope for liberation that never comes. Alara had been in the command center when the order came down. She had listened to the evacuation coordinator explain in calm, reasonable terms why they could not spare resources for a civilian extraction. She had told that coordinator exactly where they could shove their standard protocol. The court-martial, assuming she survived, would be spectacular. 9 hours, she said more to herself than to Syra. I hold this bridge for 9 hours. 9 hours? Syra's head crest rose with what might have been amusement. You believe you can hold this position for 9 hours against me? I don't believe anything, Warlord. I'm just too stubborn to quit. Syra stared at her for a long moment. The fires of the burning city burned behind her, casting her shadow across the bridge like a dark promise. Around her, 400 warriors waited in perfect discipline, their bioluminescent armor pulsing in synchronized patterns. Hawkeye, Bannister's voice was quiet in her ear. What are you doing? Buying time, sir, Alara murmured, barely moving her lips, and getting in her head. She raised her voice. You came here yourself, Warlord. One human soldier on a bridge, and the great Syra walks through her own ranks to face me personally. That's not efficiency. That's curiosity. Syra's faceted eyes gleamed in the firelight. You presume to understand me. I understand soldiers, Alara said. I've been one for 20 years since I was 18, and I know what it looks like when someone is curious. When someone sees something unexpected and wants to know more. She gestured at the bridge around them. You could have ended this fight an hour ago. One orbital strike and I'm vapor. The bridge is rubble. Your troops walk right through. She watched Syra's reaction carefully. But you didn't. You sent warriors instead. You came here yourself to this bridge to face one wounded human with a broken rifle. Alara shifted her weight, ignoring the pain. So here's my offer, Warlord. You want to see what I'm capable of? You want to understand why humans fight? Give me 9 hours. Let's see if I can last that long. If I fail, you earned your victory. If I hold, you earn something more valuable than another conquest. And what might that be? Respect. The word hung between them like a challenge, like a promise, like the beginning of something neither of them fully understood yet. Syra was silent for so long that Alara thought she might simply order the final assault and be done with it. The tactical situation was clear. 400 warriors against one woman. The mathematics were inevitable. Then slowly, carefully, Syra raised one of her upper arms and signaled to her troops. They settled back into waiting positions, weapons lowering, the immediate threat receding like a tide pulling away from shore. "Very well, human," Syra said. 9 hours. Let us see what you are truly made of." She turned to leave, then paused. "What is your name? Your full name and rank?" "Captain Alara Thorne, 14th Orbital Drop Infantry." "Captain?" Shira tested the rank, her translation device struggling with the human military hierarchy. "Not a general, not a commander, a common officer." "Nothing common about me, Warlord." Syra's jaw plates moved in that alien approximation of a smile. "No, I'm beginning to see that." The second assault came exactly 47 minutes later. Alara had used the time to make what repairs she could to the defense grid. 2 of the turrets had sustained damage in the first engagement, their tracking systems sluggish, their response time half a second too slow. In a fight measured in milliseconds, that could be the difference between life and death. "Hawkeye, thermal shows hostile movement." Bannister's voice crackled through her earpiece. 20 contacts, advancing from multiple angles. "They're trying to flank you." Alara's hands moved across her jury-rigged control panel. She had been expecting this. The first assault had been a probe, a test of her defenses. This one would be smarter, more calculated. "Copy that, Iron. I see them." She pulled up the tactical overlay, watching the heat signatures move along the canyon walls. "They're scaling the cliffs. Grappling gear, probably." "Can you target them from your current position?" Alara smiled. It was not a pleasant expression. "I don't need to target them, sir. I just need them in the right position." She waited, counted heartbeats. Watched the thermal signatures climb higher, moving into position for a vertical assault that would bypass her barrier entirely. 20 warriors, each one carrying enough firepower to level a building, moving with the confidence of soldiers who thought they had found the perfect angle of attack. "Hawkeye, they're almost in position." "I know, sir. Just a few more seconds." The Vithkai reached the optimal height. Alara could picture them preparing their descent, readying weapons, preparing to rain death down on her position from above. She entered the detonation sequence. The charges she had planted on the cliff faces during her 3 hours of preparation detonated in perfect sequence. The sound was thunderous, echoing through the canyon like the voice of an angry god. 1,000 tons of rock broke free from the canyon walls, tumbling down in an avalanche of stone and dust. The Vithkai warriors never had a chance. When the dust settled, 37 alien bodies were buried beneath the rubble. Alara could see a few limbs protruding from the debris, bioluminescent armor still pulsing weakly before fading to darkness. "Confirmed kills 37. Bannister's voice held a note of awe. "How did you know they would use that approach?" "Because it's what I would have done," Alara said. She was already moving, checking her ammunition, preparing for the next assault. The barrier forces a frontal approach. The turrets cover the bridge approach. Only way to bypass both is to go vertical. "So you planted charges there 3 hours ago." "I think like someone who wants to survive, sir." There was a pause. Then Bannister's voice came back, quieter now. "You think like a Vithkai commander, Hawkeye. That's what you think like." Alara considered that. Maybe he was right. Maybe 12 years of fighting an enemy taught you to think like them, to anticipate their moves, to understand their doctrine so completely that you could predict their actions before they made them. Or maybe she just thought like someone who had lost too much already and refused to lose anything more. "Whatever works, Iron." "Hawkeye," it was Syra's voice, carrying across the bridge from her new position. The warlord had moved during the assault, circling to observe from a different angle. "You anticipated that approach." "Like I said, Warlord, I've been killing your people for 12 years, picked up a few tricks along the way." Silence. Then, "You were at Avalon 7. The words hit Alara like a physical blow, harder than the plasma round, harder than anything physical could ever touch her. Avalon 7. For a moment, she was not on the Meridian Bridge anymore. She was standing in the ruins of a colony that had been home to 30,000 people. 30,000 people who had died in a single night while she was 26 years old and thought she understood what war meant. She remembered the silence. That was what stayed with her more than the blood, more than the bodies. The absolute crushing silence of a place where life had been extinguished so completely that even the wind seemed afraid to blow. She remembered finding the children. They had been lined up in rows, neat, orderly, as if someone had taken the time to arrange them before moving on to the next block. Small faces frozen in expressions of confusion and fear. Small hands still clutching toys they had been holding when the end came. One child in particular haunted her still. A little girl, maybe 5 years old, with blonde hair and blue eyes. She had been holding a stuffed bear, clutching it to her chest like it could protect her from the monsters that came in the night. It had not protected her. Nothing had protected any of them. Alara forced the memory away, forced herself to breathe, to focus on the present, on the bridge, on the mission. Yeah, she said, and her voice was flat, dead. I was at Avalon. That engagement was commanded by Warlord Draxus. Syra's tone carried something unexpected, contempt. A fool who believed terror was superior to tactics. He brought shame upon the Dominion with his methods. Alara's hands stopped their work on the turret repair. She looked up, trying to see Syra through the smoke and haze. Shame? That's what you call murdering 30,000 civilians? Shame. I call it poor strategy. The words made Alara look up. Syra had moved closer to the barrier's edge, her massive form silhouetted against the burning city. Her head crest was lowered slightly, a sign Alara had learned to associate with serious discussion rather than combat posturing. Dead populations cannot be subjugated, Chardira continued. They cannot produce resources. They cannot serve the Dominion's expansion. They cannot demonstrate to other species the benefits of cooperation. Her mandibles shifted in that alien smile. Draxus was executed for his failure at Avalon 7, for the deaths he caused, for the unified human response his atrocity provoked. Alara stared at her through the shimmering barrier. The warlord's words were chosen carefully, each one calculated for effect. This was not casual conversation. This was psychological warfare of a different kind. Before Avalon, Syra said, your species was fractured. Dozens of nations, competing interests, petty conflicts that weakened your collective potential. You were ripe for conquest, divided against yourselves. She spread her lower arms in a gesture that might have been philosophical. Draxus's stupidity forged you into a single blade aimed at our throat. His massacre created the very unity we sought to prevent. For that failure, he died screaming in the execution pits. Good to know you have standards, Alara said. There was no humor in her voice. Even if they're twisted. You mock me, human, but consider the truth of what I tell you. Alara finished the turret repair and stood. The movement sent fresh waves of agony through her shoulder, through her chest, through the dozen other wounds she had accumulated over the past 3 hours. But she stood straight, projected strength. Here's what I understand, Warlord. 30,000 people died on Avalon 7. Families, children, old folks who never hurt anyone. And your Dominion's response was to execute the commander not for the crime, but for the inconvenience. She met Syra's alien stare without flinching. That tells me everything I need to know about your twisted sense of honor. 3 hours had passed. 54 Vithkai lay dead on the bridge approach or buried under tons of rubble. Alara's shoulder was a constant fire, her blood loss significant enough that Bannister kept warning her about shock. She had burned through 2 rifle power cells and 1 pistol magazine. 6 hours to go, but the transports were still loading. 12,000 people still had a chance at survival. And Captain Alara Thorne still stood between them and 400 alien warriors who had begun to realize that this would not be the easy victory they had anticipated. Syra had not moved from her observation position. She simply watched, those faceted eyes tracking every movement, cataloging every tactical decision, learning. And that, Alara thought, might be the most dangerous thing of all. The 4th hour began with silence. Alara used the lull to inject her second stim pack, feeling the chemicals surge through her exhausted body like liquid lightning. Her hands had started shaking 15 minutes ago, not from fear, but from blood loss, from the simple, brutal mathematics of a body pushed far beyond its limits. The stim pack would buy her another 2 hours, maybe 3 if she was lucky. After that, her body would fail regardless of her will. Hawkeye, your vital signs are approaching critical thresholds. Bannister's voice carried the flat, professional tone he used when he was deeply worried but refusing to show it. Heart rate elevated, blood pressure dropping, core temperature down 2 degrees. You need medical evacuation. Alara checked the barrier generator. The housing was glowing red hot now, the fail-safes tripping one by one as the system tried to cope with damage it was never designed to handle. She had maybe an hour before it collapsed entirely. Can't leave, Iron. You know why. Avalon 7, the little girl. The words hung in the encrypted channel between them. Bannister had been there too, had walked those silent streets, had seen what remained when the Vithkai were done. He understood in a way that no one who had not witnessed that particular horror could understand. The next assault came without warning. Not 20 warriors this time, 40. They came in 3 waves, coordinated timing designed to overwhelm her defenses through sheer volume of fire. Alara activated her turrets in open fire simultaneously. The barrier held against the first wave, plasma impacts creating cascading ripples of golden energy across its surface. The turrets cut down 12 warriors before they could even reach effective range. But the second wave had learned. They used portable shield generators, advancing in a coordinated push that absorbed the turret fire while sappers worked to disable her automated defenses with electromagnetic pulse weapons. Iron, they're targeting my turret control systems. I see it, Hawkeye. Can you compensate? Alara's fingers flew across her control panel, rerouting power, activating backup systems she had built during her 3 hours of preparation. 2 turrets went dark, their systems fried by the EMP burst. But she still had 4 operational, and she made them count. The third wave tried to breach the barrier at multiple points simultaneously. Alara had anticipated this. She deliberately collapsed the eastern section, channeling the warriors into a kill box where overlapping fields of fire turned them into target practice. 23 more Vithkai fell, but her ammunition was dropping fast. 10% rifle charge, 20 pistol rounds remaining. Between assaults, Alara worked on emergency repairs. Her shoulder had stopped bleeding only because she did not have enough blood left to bleed. Her vision kept graying at the edges, her body trying desperately to shut down and rest. She would not let it. Hawkeye, you should know something. Bannister's voice was carefully neutral. I'm monitoring Dominion comm traffic. They're adapting faster than expected. Each assault is more sophisticated than the last. Let them adapt, Alara said through gritted teeth. So will I. The 5th assault was the worst yet, 60 warriors attacking from multiple vectors simultaneously. Alara burned through her remaining rifle charge in 2 minutes of sustained combat. She switched to her pistol, each shot placed with desperate precision. But they kept coming. 1 warrior made it through the barrier, then 3, then 6. The close quarters fight was brutal and chaotic. Alara shot the first warrior in the face at point-blank range, feeling alien blood spray across her chest. The second caught her with a backhand blow that sent her sprawling, her pistol skittering away across the deck. She rolled, came up with her knife, and drove it into the warrior's throat. Hot blood fountained across her hands. The Vithkai fell. The third warrior was on her before she could recover. Claws raked across her chest, shredding her tactical vest and the flesh beneath. Pain beyond description, beyond tolerance. Alara screamed, but her hands kept moving, kept fighting. She jammed the knife under the warrior's jaw and drove upward with all her remaining strength. The blade punched through chitin and into whatever passed for a brain. The warrior spasmed and went still. 3 more warriors poured through the gap. Alara retrieved her pistol and emptied the magazine. 15 rounds at point-blank range. 3 warriors down. When the assault finally broke, Alara collapsed against the console. Every breath was fire. Her chest felt like it had been put through a meat grinder. But she had held. How many? She gasped. Confirmed kills this assault. 48. Bannister's voice was tight. Total enemy casualties, 102. 102. More than a quarter of Syra's force. But Alara was running out of everything. Ammunition, blood, time. Hawkeye! It was Syra's voice now, carrying across the bridge. You should be dead. Alara forced herself to look up. The warlord stood at the barrier's edge, closer than she had ever been before. I get that a lot, Alara managed. Your wounds are severe. Internal bleeding, multiple lacerations, possible organ damage. Your combat effectiveness should be zero, yet you continue to fight with precision that defies biological limitations. Syra took a step onto the bridge proper, crossing the invisible line that had separated them for hours. I watched 3 of my warriors reach you in close combat, warriors who have killed dozens of enemies each. You killed them all. Alara's hand found her knife, slick with 3 different types of alien blood. They got careless. No, Syra's cranial ridge lowered. They did not. I watched. They fought well, used proper technique. You simply fought better. The warlord stood now, within arm's reach, close enough to kill with a single swipe of those massive claws. She made no move to attack. Instead, slowly, she reached up to her carapace and removed something. A medallion, small, ancient, covered in symbols Alara did not recognize. Even in the dim light, she could see it was old. The kind of artifact that carried weight beyond its physical form. This is my clan mark, Syra said. It has been carried by the firstborn of my bloodline for 600 years. It has witnessed the rise and fall of empires. It has been present at battles that shaped the galaxy. She held it out, extending one of her lower arms. Alara stared at the offered medallion. Her tactical mind raced. This was a test. Had to be. Some kind of psychological manipulation. Why, she asked. Because when you die, and you will die, Captain Thorne, I want you to carry something of worth into whatever afterlife your species believes in. Alara's grip tightened on her knife. Keep your honor, warlord. I don't need it. This is not about need. This is about recognition. Syra's multifaceted gaze fixed on her with intensity that made even the pain fade into background noise. In 600 years of warfare, I have encountered perhaps a dozen worthy adversaries. Species who fought with such skill, such determination, such creativity that defeating them brought no satisfaction, only a strange kind of sorrow. She paused. You are the first individual to earn that designation. Alara looked at the medallion, at Syra, at the bridge around her, painted in blood and scored with plasma burns. Those transports, she said, the ones evacuating the civilians. You won't intercept them. Syra's jaw plates moved slowly. You would trade my honor for their safety? I would trade anything for their safety. That's why I'm here. The silence stretched between them. Alara could hear her own heartbeat, feel the blood seeping through her shredded vest, could taste copper and smoke and the bitter chemical tang of the stim pack burning through her system. I give you my word, Syra said finally, by my clan, Mark, by my 6 centuries of service. The transports will not be intercepted by forces under my command. By forces under your command, Alara repeated. That's a specific phrase, warlord. Syra's head crest rose slightly. You are more observant than most. Yes, I command the 3rd Talon. I do not command the entire Dominion fleet. But for now, your word is enough. Alara reached out and took the medallion. The metal was warm against her palm, heavier than it looked. She could feel the weight of centuries in it, the accumulated honor of a bloodline that had conquered worlds. Now we have a deal, she said. Syra's mandibles shifted. Now we have something more interesting than a deal, Captain. Now we have an understanding. The 6th hour ground past like broken glass through Alara's veins. The stim pack was wearing off, the chemical high giving way to a crash that left her shaking and nauseous. Her body was a map of agony, each wound competing for attention. But the bridge still stood, and she still stood on it. Hawkeye, you need to know something. Bannister's voice was tight. The transports just reached minimum safe distance. They're initiating jump sequence now. Alara felt something loosen in her chest. They're safe? In approximately 47 minutes, yes. Once they jump, nothing in this system can catch them. 47 minutes, less than an hour. After everything, it came down to 47 minutes. Then I just need to hold for 47 more minutes. Negative, Hawkeye. The evacuation coordinator just updated the timeline. There's a problem with the jump drive calibration on Transport 3. They need another 90 minutes. The words hit like a fist to the gut. 90 minutes, an hour and a half. She had maybe an hour left before her body failed completely. Then I guess I better figure out how to last 90 minutes, she said. She checked her remaining resources. 5% rifle charge, 15 pistol rounds, 2 grenades, the knife, and an alien plasma rifle she had picked up, with maybe 20 shots remaining. It would have to be enough. Between assaults, Syra spoke to her, not attacking, not threatening, just talking, as if they were two soldiers sharing a quiet moment rather than enemies separated by a failing barrier. Tell me about Avalon 7, Sierra said during one lull. You were there, you saw what Draxus did. I want to understand what drove you to become this. Alara's first instinct was to refuse, to keep that pain locked away where it belonged. But Syra had given her the clan mark, had spared the transports, had sat across from her like an equal. She owed the warlords something for that, even if that something was just truth. I was 26 years old, Alara began. Her voice was steady despite everything. Part of the relief force. We arrived 3 days after the massacre, expecting to find survivors, expecting to find something worth saving. The words came slowly at first, then faster. She told Syra about the empty streets, about the silence that pressed against her ears like physical weight, about the way the wind seemed afraid to blow through those dead avenues. She told her about finding the children. They were lined up, Alara said, and her voice cracked for the first time. Rows upon rows of them. Someone had taken the time to arrange them, like they were going to sleep, like someone actually cared about them, even while killing them. She looked at Syra through the barrier. I found a little girl, maybe 5 years old, blonde hair, blue eyes. I found her student ID in the rubble near her body. Sophie Mitchell, 5 years old. Alara's hand found the clan medallion in her pocket. She was holding a teddy bear when she died, some kind of brown bear with a red ribbon around its neck, still clutching it to her chest like it could protect her from the monsters. What happened to it? Sierra asked quietly. I carried that bear for 6 months, kept it in my pack through every mission, every firefight, every sleepless night. I don't know why. I just couldn't let it go. Alara laughed bitterly. Lost it in a firefight on Meridian Station. My pack got hit by a plasma round. Everything inside burned. She closed her eyes. I cried for 3 days, not for the friends I lost in that fight, for a stuffed bear that belonged to a dead girl I never knew. Syra's cranial ridge lowered. You carry guilt. I carry memory. There's a difference. Is there? Alara met her gaze. Guilt would make me want to die. Memory makes me want to live, to fight, to make sure it never happens again. She touched the medallion again. That's why I'm here, Warlord. Not for revenge, not for glory, for Sophie Mitchell and all the others like her who are still alive, who deserve a chance to grow old. Syra was silent for a long time. When she finally spoke, her voice was different, softer, almost sad. My species does not have childhood, she said. We emerge from the spawning pools fully formed, with the memories of our ancestors encoded in our genes. We do not experience what it is to be young, to be helpless, to depend on others for protection. She looked at the burning city beyond the bridge. Perhaps that is why we do not understand you. We have never had anything to protect in the way you describe. Everyone has something worth protecting, Alara said. Even you, Warlord. Do I? Yes. You wouldn't be standing here talking to me if you didn't. The 7th hour brought new pain and a new threat. The barrier was failing completely now. Multiple breaches that Alara could not repair. Her body was shutting down despite the stim packs, despite her will. And then the sound of engines cut through the night air. Hawkeye, I'm reading massive Dominion reinforcements inbound. Bannister's voice was tight with alarm. 3 dropships, full combat load. IFF signatures identify them as 12th Legion. Alara felt ice form in her stomach. The 12th Legion. Every human soldier knew that designation. Syra's crown plates flared with unmistakable rage. No, she breathed. Not them. Warlord, Alara's hand tightened on her rifle. What is it? What's the 12th Legion? The dropships touched down at the far end of the bridge, their landing gears scoring the deck plating. Ramps descended. Warriors poured out in perfect formation, their armor marked with crimson kill signs that looked black in the firelight, and at their head, a young warlord with murder in his eyes. The 12th Legion, Syra said, and her voice was ice, is commanded by Warlord Kethron, the blood heir of Draxus, the son of the fool who ordered the massacre at Avalon 7. Alara's world narrowed to a single point. The young warlord striding through his troops, the son of the monster who had killed 30,000 people, the heir to a legacy of genocide. "He is here for you, Captain Thorne," Gira said quietly. "He is here to finish what his father started." Warlord Kethrin stopped 10 meters from the barrier, his 300 warriors arrayed behind him in perfect combat formation. His cranial ridge was raised to full height, catching the firelight in a display of dominance. Alara Thorne was not intimidated. "Syra!" Kethrin's voice cut through the night like a serrated blade. "High Command grows impatient. One human has held this bridge for 7 hours. 7 hours against the legendary Third Talon." His jaw plates clicked with barely suppressed rage. "They begin to question your competence." Syra rose to her full height, towering over the younger warlord. "I did not request assistance, Kethrin." "No, you did not." His claws extended to their full length, which is precisely why High Command sent me. To ensure that this embarrassment ends quickly. Alara watched the exchange with tactical awareness. This was not simply military protocol. This was personal. The tension between the two warlords was thick enough to cut. "This bridge is my command," Syra said, her voice dropping to a dangerous whisper. "My campaign. You have no authority here." Kethrin produced a data crystal from his armor, its surface glowing with official seals. "I have the authority of the Dominion Council. Your performance has been deemed insufficient. I am assuming tactical control of this sector, effective immediately." "Hawkeye," Bannister's voice was urgent. "Thermal shows elevated aggression indicators between the two warlords. This could be an opportunity." Alara's mind raced. Two warlords, conflicting authority, tension that could be exploited. She had spent 7 hours fighting. Maybe it was time to try something different. Maybe it was time to manipulate. She pushed herself to her feet, ignoring the screaming protest from every nerve. Blood ran down her shredded tactical vest. Her shoulder was a mass of agony, but she stood straight. "Gentlemen," she called out. "Lady, I'm still here." Both warlords turned to look at her. Kethrin's faceted eyes narrowed with undisguised hatred. "The insect speaks." His jaw plates spread wide, revealing razor-sharp inner teeth. "Good. I want it to beg before it dies." Alara smiled through blood-caked lips. "The insect who's killed nearly 100 of your kind tonight, and still standing. What's your count, Junior?" The provocation hit exactly as intended. Kethrin's head crest flared with rage. "You dare." "I dare a lot of things," Alara interrupted. She took a step forward. "Your daddy Draxus. I heard he died screaming in the execution pits. Executed for incompetence. For being too stupid to understand basic tactics." "Hawkeye, what are you doing?" Bannister's voice held alarm. "Making him stupid, sir," Alara murmured. Then louder. "Tell me, Kethrin, did he scream for his mother? Or was he too busy soiling himself to make coherent sounds?" Kethrin lunged forward, stopped only by a gesture from Syra. "Control yourself," Syra snapped. "She manipulates you." "Oh, I'm doing more than that, warlord." Alara shifted her attention to Syra. "Tell me something. Does Junior here have tracking data on my evacuation transports?" Syra's crown plates lowered slightly. A tell. Confirmation. "He does, doesn't he?" Alara pressed. "That's why High Command sent him. Not just to clean up your mess, to pursue those transports, to finish what Daddy started." Kethron's mandibles clicked rapidly. "The human understands. Yes, every ship will burn. Every civilian will die screaming, just as they should have died on Avalon 7. My father's only mistake was not being thorough enough." The words hung in the air like a death sentence. Alara turned her full attention to Syra. This was the moment. This was where tactics met psychology, where she would either save 12,000 lives or watch everything burn. "You gave me your word, warlord," Alara said quietly. "Your clan mark." She pulled the ancient medallion from her pocket, holding it up. "You said forces under your command wouldn't intercept the transports. That this mark meant something, that it represented 600 years of honor." She took another step forward. "If you let him leave this bridge, that mark means nothing. 600 years of honor, reduced to worthless metal because you were too weak to stand by your word." Sarah's eyes fixed on Alara with almost physical intensity. "You manipulate me, human." "I'm giving you a choice," Alara said. What you do with it is yours. She paused. You said I was worthy. You said I earned respect. Prove it. Stand with me. Or admit your honor is as hollow as Draxus's tactics. The silence was absolute. 300 warriors waited. Two warlords faced each other across centuries of military doctrine, and one human soldier stood between them with nothing but words and will. This is treason you propose, Cyrus said slowly. This is honor, Ilara countered. Real honor, not the twisted version where murdering civilians is a tactical error instead of a war crime, not the kind where your word means nothing when it becomes inconvenient. She met Cyrus' gaze without flinching. You fought for 600 years, won every battle, conquered 17 species. When you die, whenever that is, what do you want your legacy to be? Just another warlord who followed orders? Or the one who stood for something that actually mattered? Kethron's voice was venomous. Syra, if you side with this vermin, you betray everything the Dominion stands for. No, Syra said quietly. She turned to face Kethron fully. If I side with you, I betray everything I have learned in 600 years of war. Her head crest rose to full height. I stand with the human. The words echoed across the bridge with finality that made Kethron step back. You are making a mistake, he hissed. Syra's jaw plates shifted. Perhaps, but it is my mistake to make. Iron, Ilara said quietly. I need you to listen very carefully. I'm listening, Hawkeye. I'm going to charge 300 Vithkai warriors with a rifle at 5% charge and a very bad attitude. When I do, I need you to activate every remaining turret we have hidden in the canyon walls. Full automatic, target heavy weapons and command staff first. The pause lasted 2 heartbeats. Hawkeye, that's suicide. That's war, sir. You taught me that. Another pause. Authorization confirmed. All systems standing by. You call it, I'll execute. Ilara turned to Sarah. When I move, you flank left. Target their command structure. Take out the officers first, then work through the ranks. Syra's cranial ridge lowered. You command me, human? You want to win this fight? You want to make sure Kethron never reaches those transports? Ilara smiled grimly. Then you follow my lead, warlord, because I've been killing your people for 12 years, and I know exactly how to do this. For a long moment, Syra simply stared at her. Then slowly her mandibles shifted into something that might have been respect. Very well, Captain Thorne. Show me how humans win impossible battles. Kethron's voice carried across the bridge. Warriors of the 12th Legion, advance, and Ilara charged. She burst through the failing barrier, with her rifle blazing, every shot placed with desperate precision. The first warrior never saw her coming. She put 3 rounds through his eye socket and used his falling body as cover. Iron, now! The canyon walls erupted with plasma fire. Bannister had hidden 12 additional turrets during the previous 6 hours, positioned at angles the Vithkai could not have anticipated. They activated simultaneously, creating a crossfire that turned the bridge approach into a killing field. Kethron's warriors scattered, their perfect formation dissolving into chaos. Syra moved like death itself. She flowed through the ranks from the left flank, her 600 years of combat experience distilled into pure lethal efficiency. Each strike was surgical. Each movement flowed seamlessly into the next. Officers died first, their command structure collapsing. Ilara burned through her rifle's remaining charge in 30 seconds. 16 warriors fell. She dropped the weapon and drew her pistol. 15 rounds. She made each one count. Heavy at 3 o'clock, she called to Syra. The warlord pivoted, intercepting a warrior with a plasma cannon before he could fire. Her claws ripped through his armor. Pincer movement from behind. Syra spun, her lower arms catching 2 warriors who had tried to flank. They died without sound. Ilara's pistol clicked empty. She drew her knife and grabbed a fallen Vithkai plasma rifle. The alien weapon was awkward in her hands, designed for different physiology. She used it anyway. The battle became chaos and precision merged. Ilara called targets. Syra executed. They moved through the melee like a single organism. Human tactical awareness merged with Vithkai combat prowess. 30 warriors down, 50, 70. The 12th Legion was not breaking. These were veterans, hardened by campaigns across worlds. They adapted, regrouped, pressed forward with discipline that would have crushed any normal defense. But there was nothing normal about what they faced. "Catherine's moving toward you, Hawkeye," Bannister warned. "He's coming for you personally." Elara saw him through the smoke. The young warlord had abandoned his command position, driven by rage to end this himself. He moved with shocking speed, claws extended, eyes fixed on the human who had killed so many of his warriors. Elara raised the plasma rifle. Kethron was fast. But Elara had spent 7 hours fighting for her life. 7 hours pushing beyond every limit. 7 hours becoming something more than human through desperate will. She pulled the trigger. The plasma bolt caught Kethron's right arm at the shoulder joint. The limbs separated from his body in a spray of alien blood and burning tissue. Kethron screamed, pure animal agony. He staggered but did not fall. Rage kept him upright. His remaining arms reached for Elara, claws seeking soft flesh. Syra was there first. 600 years of perfected killing technique. She moved like flowing water, like death given form. Her claws found Kethron's throat before he could process her presence. "Your father died screaming," Syra said, her voice cold and absolute. "You do not deserve even that much." The crack of Kethron's neck breaking echoed across the bridge like thunder. Syra let the body fall. Around them, the surviving warriors of the 12th Legion stared in horror at their fallen commander. "Your commander is dead," Ira announced, her voice carrying with absolute authority. "Your mission has failed. Return to your ships and report to High Command that Warlord Syra holds this position. Any who wish to dispute this may face me personally." Not one warrior moved to dispute it. The 12th Legion broke. They retreated toward their dropships, discipline shattered, courage gone. Within minutes, the bridge was empty except for the dead and the two unlikely allies. Elara collapsed against the console. Her legs gave out, her body reaching absolute limits. She slid down to the deck, leaving a red smear. "Hawkeye!" Bannister's voice was sharp. "Vitals are crashing. Multiple organ failure imminent. You need immediate medical attention." "Transport status?" Elara gasped. 90 seconds to jump initiation." 90 seconds. She just needed to stay conscious 90 more seconds. Syra knelt beside her. The massive warlord lowered herself with surprising gentleness, her eyes studying Elara with what might have been concern. "You are dying, Captain Thorne." "Probably," Elara admitted. "Vithkai medical technology is advanced. Your wounds are severe but not irreparable. I could save you." Elara looked up at her. "Why would you do that?" Syra was silent for a moment. When she spoke, her voice carried weight that transcended translation. "Because you taught me something tonight, Elara Thorne. Something I thought impossible after 600 years of war." She paused. "You taught me what it means to live. Not to exist, not to conquer, not to win, but to live for something greater than yourself." "Hawkeye," Bannister's voice cut through. "You need to understand what she's offering. If you accept you can't come home, both governments will hunt you, human and Vithkai. You'll be a traitor to both species." Elara closed her eyes. She thought about going home, about the court-martial, about trying to explain why she had allied with the enemy, about living knowing she could have done more. "Iron," she said quietly, "you've been my commanding officer for 12 years, my mentor, my friend. Tell me honestly, what should I do?" The silence stretched 5 seconds. Then, "I think you already know, Hawkeye. You've always known. That's why you stayed on this bridge when everyone else ran." Bannister's voice softened. "You've done enough for humanity. More than enough. If you want to come home, you've earned that right 1,000 times over. But if you stay out there with her, you could change how this war is fought. Not human victory or dominion conquest. Something new. Something that might actually lead to real peace." Elara opened her eyes and looked at Syra. "If I accept, we're partners, equals, not master and servant, not conqueror and conquered, equals." "Agreed," Syra said without hesitation. "I lead tactical operations. You handle strategy and dominion politics. A logical division of responsibilities. And our first priority is finding others like us. Humans who want peace. Vithkai who want honor. Building something that isn't conquest or surrender." Syra's head crest rose slightly. "That will take years, decades, perhaps centuries." Elara smiled weakly. Good thing you're 600 years old then. Transport's jumping now, Bannister announced. All 12,000 civilians are safe, Hawkeye. They made it because of you. Alara felt something loosen in her chest, something wound tight for 9 hours, for 12 years, for her entire adult life. They were safe, all of them. Then I accept, she said to Syrah. Save me, and let's change this war. Syrah lifted her with surprising gentleness, cradling Alara's broken body against her carapace. The movement should have been terrifying. Instead, it felt almost protective. Iron, Alara said into her comm. This is my last transmission as an active service member. I know, Hawkeye. Tell them, the bridge held. Tell them 12,000 people made it home because one soldier refused to run. Tell them the story. Make sure they remember. They'll remember, Bannister promised. His voice was thick with emotion. The bridge that would not fall. One soldier against impossible odds. They'll tell that story for 100 years. And Iron? Yes, Hawkeye. Thank you for everything, for pulling me out of the wreckage after Avalon, for teaching me how to fight again, for being the voice in my ear when I needed it most. You did the fighting, Captain Thorne. I just watched in awe. Syrah carried Alara toward her shuttle. The interior was alien, designed for a species with 4 arms. But the medical platform hummed with technology that could save her life. As Syrah lowered her onto the platform, Alara looked back at the bridge one final time. The fire still burned in the city beyond. The canyon walls stood as silent witnesses. And the bridge itself, scored with plasma burns and painted with blood, remained intact. Over 200 Vithkai lay dead. 54 from the first 7 hours of desperate defense. Another 150 from Kethron's legion in the final battle. The bridge had become a graveyard of alien warriors who learned too late that humans do not break easily. What do we do first? Syrah asked as medical systems began their work. Alara felt the pain starting to fade as alien technology engaged. We find others, human peacekeepers, who want something better than endless war. Vithkai like you who understand that honor means more than conquest. There will be resistance, from both our peoples. There always is, that's why it's worth doing. The shuttle's engines powered up. Through the viewport, Alara could see the stars beginning to appear as they climbed through atmosphere. Cold, distant, full of possibility. The transports are reporting their status, Syrah said, monitoring comm channels. All 12,000 civilians are safe. They are already broadcasting what happened here. The story of the soldier who held the bridge. Alara touched the clan medallion still clutched in her hand. 600 years of honor, given freely. Not as trophy, but as recognition between equals. They'll call it the bridge that would not fall, she said quietly. They'll tell stories about one soldier against impossible odds, about how humanity can achieve anything if we refuse to give up. And they will be right, Gira said, though they will not know the full truth, that it was not just human stubbornness that saved those lives. It was human intelligence, human tactical brilliance, human ability to see possibilities where others see only defeat. The shuttle cleared the atmosphere. Below, the Meridian Bridge still stood. Above, the stars waited. Over 200 enemies dead, Alara said, feeling medical systems pulling her toward healing sleep. One warlord redeemed, 12,000 people is safe, and a war that just changed forever. What is your first strategic recommendation, partner? Syrah asked. Alara smiled. Find me when I wake up. We have a lot of work to do. As consciousness faded, she heard Bannister's final transmission. Faint now, almost lost in static as the shuttle jumped to hyperspace. Godspeed, Hawkeye. You did good. Better than good. You changed everything. The last thing Alara Thorne saw before sleep claimed her was the stars outside the viewport. The same stars that shone over Earth, over the colonies, over 12,000 people who would live to see their families again. The same stars that would shine over a different kind of war. A war where honor mattered more than conquest, where understanding mattered more than dominance, where one human and one Vithkai could stand together and prove that change was possible. Sometimes survival was not the victory. Sometimes it was what you built after surviving that mattered most. And Captain Alara Thorne, who had held a bridge for 9 hours against impossible odds, was just getting started. The bridge had not fallen, and neither had the soldier who defended it. But more importantly, neither of them stood alone anymore. And that, Ilara thought as sleep finally took her, was the greatest victory of all.